Hello, my name is Sham. I'm a fourth year medical student at King's. Welcome back to my channel. I have been getting questions about how to get into medicine as a graduate and what sort of subjects to do before, what modules to take within those subjects. So I thought I'd put it in a video. So essentially I applied to medicine when I was 18. The usual route. Unfortunately, I did not get into medicine because of my grades. So I was offered some places in medical school, but my A levels were not the best, and obviously you need the best for medicine. So because of that, I decided to do biomedical sciences first. I hadn't heard much about it at the time. So this was, of course, what year are we? 2018. This was like sort of 7 years ago where I was applying the first time. I didn't know much about biomed, but I knew that other people had done it and then did medicine after. So I was just sort of blindly following a route that I didn't know much about. So these days, most universities will accept any science degree. So science includes anything that is a BSc, psychology, biomed, biology, chemistry, whatever. Most universities will accept that. Others also accept art subjects, and I think some art students make really good medical students, they're really good doctors. They bring a different sort of perspective into it. So as I said, I sort of went into biomedical sciences blindly, just doing it as a bridge to medicine. But soon I realised that I really do love and enjoy science, and this was sort of the biomedical aspect of medicine, sort of without the clinical aspect. So learning about it was really interesting, and I really put my all into biomed, and I came out with good grades. In terms of the modules in biomed, people have been asking me which ones are best, which ones look better for your medical school application, and I think the most important thing is to do what you are going to enjoy, because if you don't enjoy a subject, you're less likely to put your all into it, and you're less likely to get better grades. So I think in terms of that, choose what you want to do, and however good it might look on a medical school application, if you're not able to talk about it passionately, sort of about why you did it and why you're interested in it at a medical school interview, it's not going to look good at all. I really did enjoy biomedical sciences. My favourite parts were actually physiology rather than anatomy or pharmacology. I really enjoyed learning about what was happening inside the body, especially renal. Really interesting. The kidneys really stood out to me during biomed, and about how important their job was. And I just noticed how in A levels it's not highlighted how amazing the body is. You learn all this stuff, but it's just crazy how amazing the human body is. And I'm so glad I did biomedical sciences first. Now knowing everything that I do has made my medical school experience a lot better, not only in the content, but because I did biomed, I really learned how I learn and how I perform best and how to do my best at university. So that experience has really enhanced how good of a medical student I am, and it's invaluable, I think. Although, like, obviously some people know these things before they start medical school, and they don't need to do a whole other degree before in order to learn these things about themselves. But for me, this was definitely the best route. So of course, during and after biomedical sciences, I still wanted to study medicine. My reasons for wanting to study medicine are sort of deep-rooted in family sickness. My mum got unwell when I was 11 years old, and then she passed away. So my sort of reasons for studying medicine were probably never going to change. So I still wanted to do medicine, and I think doing biomedical sciences made me want it a lot more. So during my second and third year of biomed, I sort of wanted to get a more clinical aspect of sort of medicine and hospitals. So the first thing I did was volunteered at a hospice, and I was sort of paired with an old lady that was in for end of life care. She would spend a lot of time at home as well. So my part was helping her at home. We would go to the supermarket, I'd take her to the bank, the post office, the shopping mall, just to get out and help to enable her do the things that she needed to do for herself that she couldn't quite do. And from that experience, I just learned so much about empathy and compassion and how it can go such a long way in medicine, and it's not always about trying to make people better. And that was important to me because when I first wanted to study medicine, my whole thing was I want to make people better. And the experience with the hospice care just made me learn so much about how it's not always trying to make people better, and just the emotional side of it can go so far in making them feel better, even if it doesn't make their health better. So the next thing I did was I got a job as a HCA at a hospital. I think it's so crazy because now when you look for HCA posts, they want this NVQ, these diploma, like it's so wild. The only experience I had prior to starting that job with anything clinical was the hospice experience. So I think this is why I just think everything happens for a reason. Like, I don't know why they took me on for this job, but they did, and that was the best experience I could have ever had before applying to medical school. Working as a healthcare assistant, I got to see how hospitals work, how the different team members work with each other, what the different team members do, who all these people are in the hospital. And the fact that the doctors and the nurses knew that I wanted to do medicine meant that whenever something interesting happened, or whenever they needed a chaperone, whenever they needed someone to take some swabs, take some bloods, they would call me. So I got all this practical clinical experience, administrative clinical experience. Honestly, it's the best experience ever. So I think if you want some work experience as a grad, the best thing to do is try and get involved in some sort of healthcare assistant, clinical support worker role at a hospital. As I said, now they do ask for diplomas and NVQs and things like that, but I think it never hurts to ask. So if you apply for all these jobs that ask for these diplomas and NVQs, there might be one that will still offer you an interview. So how do you get into medicine as a grad or as an undergrad? How do you get into medicine? Of course you need your grades. If I had gotten my grades at A-level, I would have been finished with medical school by now. And if I hadn't got good grades in my degree, I wouldn't have got to medical school this time at all. So good grades are key. Everyone applying to medical school is going to have similar grades, similar predictions. So that is definitely the core of what you need. If you don't get that, then automatically you're kind of out. That also includes your pre-tests such as your UK CAT, your BMAT, your GAMSAT in terms of grads. Just make sure those are up to par, and then everything else, you still have to be bigger and better than everyone else. So extracurricular stuff. Of course they want to know that you're a well-rounded person and your life isn't dedicated into getting into medicine. But they want it to be authentic. If you don't actually do anything, say it. But if you do something extracurricular, then make sure it's something that you're actually into and that you can talk about at interview, because they know when you've made it up or when it's fake. Everyone likes to go to the gym, likes to cycle and all of this stuff. If you don't actually like to do it, they're going to know about it. But some people are just boring like me, like I don't really do much. And I said that. So I mentioned work experience. Everyone's sort of fighting to get work experience, but they're not sure what they've gotten out of it. So when you go to interview, you need to be able to not just run off a list all these different things that you've done, but how it made you feel, what you learned about it, how this is going to make you a better medical student and ultimately a better doctor. Something that I did that I found was really important and sort of pivotal for me is I actually among the work experience that I did, I also shadowed a medical student for a week at St George's University in London. And I think, like, you're applying to be a medical student, it does lead to becoming a doctor, but ultimately you're going to spend 4, 5 or 6 years at medical school being a medical student. So I thought it was important to actually know what medical students do. And I was shocked about the amount of information that she had to learn, and that how she had to balance this with attending hospital clinics and her social life. And she had a fiance, her family lived far away. I just found it was so crazy how this young girl had to balance all of these things. She was also a grad, so that helped. We were also able to discuss how she worked and funded her degree, because as a graduate, money matters. So as I mentioned, I am a grad, but I am on the 5-year course, so the regular undergrad course, and for me that means that it's self-funded. A lot of people ask how I balance funding the degree and doing the degree. It's hard, but it can be done. A lot of my friends are in the same position, so it's really difficult, obviously, to balance trying to make this money in order to pay for the degree, and then also having time to study for your degree, so you still have a degree to pay for. This is where sort of balancing your time is really important. I write everything in my diary and then double write it in my phone and just keep on top of things. And I think what me and a lot of my friends do, we work a lot in the summer to build up that fund in order to be able to take time off during the year to study and not be working all the time in order to fund a degree. Other people work throughout and enjoy their summer, but for me, I think it's better to work more in summer and then be able to dedicate my time to actually studying during the year. So in terms of actually applying, it's done through UCAS for everyone, whether you're a grad or undergrad, whether you're applying to the 5-year, the 4-year or a 6-year course. You're allowed a maximum of 4 options for medical schools and dentistry. And then the 5th option is for like another course. So for graduates, another option could be applying to be a physician's associate. That is a 2 years master's degree following a science degree. This is a relatively new position in the UK, where in the US it's been around for a long time. The role is sort of supportive for the doctor. These practitioners, they can often prescribe certain things. They can clerk patients, take histories, do examinations. Obviously you don't have a doctor title and you don't have some of the same rights and roles as a doctor does, but it is something to consider if maybe money is an issue for you as a grad, or you don't mind about not having a doctor's title or the highest responsibility. I feel like it's definitely an option. I did apply for that at the same time when I was applying for medicine after my degree, and was offered some places, but ultimately for me, I want to not only have a role of a clinician, but I want to be involved in a lot of research, and for that, being a doctor puts me in a better position. So after your application to medical school via UCAS, you might be invited for an interview. Most interviews these days are in the multiple mini interview format, MMI, where you have sort of 5 or 6 stations which you rotate around, each with usually a different theme or a different question, and each with a different interviewer. So I really like those because you really get a chance to, if a station goes bad, you can drop it, leave it there and move on. If you're that kind of person, sometimes I cling on to things, but it gives you the opportunity to do your absolute best with a fresh demeanour, a fresh face each station. Some places still do the traditional interview format where you have like a panel of like 3 to 5 people asking you questions, which I really don't like, because if you mess up, then you're still sat in front of the same people looking at you crazy, and you're looking at them scared. And then other places like Warwick do like an interview day where you do some individual sort of stations, and then some things like group activities, tube people, the whole group, which is quite fun, I guess, and quite a innovative way to do things. But just be aware that there are different interview formats, but ultimately they're trying to find out the same things. And I say 100% you're probably going to get the why medicine question in any interview format. I think the key to interviews though is to practice ahead of time. What I did, I just went online and typed in something like medical school questions and just bullet pointed my answers, because the problem with rehearsing your answers too much is that they look rehearsed and not authentic. So it's important to be prepared but not rehearsed. So I know the October 15th deadline is coming up for medical school applications. I just want to wish everyone good luck, whether you're an undergrad, a grad, whatever your position, good luck. Any questions, I'm more than happy to answer. Just send me a question on here, on Instagram or on Twitter, and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Any other content you're interested in or want me to give my sort of opinion on, don't hesitate to let me know. Subscribe to my channel and follow me on my social media. See you soon.